Pilot's co-pilot, pilot's co-pilot. Hey, it's Mr. Noland, your pilot here. I'm going to guide you guys today. This is going to be over homework 5.1c. The backside is to help you get you ready for Unit 3. So let's go ahead and get started with what we've learned so far on Unit 5. So Unit 5 is converting fractions, decimals, and percents. So let's start with this. How would you turn a decimal to a percent? Well, guys, to turn a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal two places to the right. So for example, if I have 0.32 and I ask you to turn that into a percent, take your decimal, move it two places to the right. We now have 32. Add your percent sign. So 0.32 is equivalent to 32%. That easy. Let's say we have this. Again, take your decimal, move it two places to the right. We now have 0.1. And you put a percent sign behind it. Nice and easy. You're done. Alright, let's do this one. Let's try let's say we have 45.76 and it says to convert that to a percent. Again, you take your decimal, move it two places to the right. We now have 4,576%. So again, to turn a decimal to a percent, you just take your decimal, move it two places to the right. That's it. You're done. Nice and easy. Now let's say you want to go from a percent to a decimal. So you're going backwards now. So percent to decimal. This one you're going to move the decimal two places to the left. So let's do about 4 examples. Let's say we have 17%. The first step we have to do is to get rid of that percent sign. So now all we have is 17. We are like, Mr. Noland, there's no decimal here. I know there's not. It's a whole number. So if you have a whole number, put the decimal behind it. Whoa, now we have a decimal, don't we? Well, now move the decimal two places to the left. 1, 2. So 17% is the same as 0.17. Done. Bada bing, bada boom. Now what happens if we have this? 3%. Again, start by covering up the percent sign. Now we just have the number 3. Again, do you see a decimal here with the number 3? No, it's a whole number. So put the decimal behind it. And now move the decimal two places to the left. 1, 2. Well, now look, you see this empty space here? Add a 0. So 3% is the same as 0.03 as a decimal. Alright, a couple more. Let's say we have 16.7%. Again, I know some of y'all are going to say, Mr. Noland already has a decimal. Cover up the percent. There's your answer. Okay. Start by covering up the percent sign. So you have 16.7. Now from the decimal, move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So 16.7% is the same as 0.167 as a decimal. I know I said I was going to do 4 examples, but I think we're okay with 3 examples, so I'm going to stop right there. So now let's go ahead and do fraction to percent. Okay, so fraction to percent. There are 2 ways you can do it. I'm going to show you both ways. The first one, let's say we have the fraction 5/8. This way will always work. Every single time will always work. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this fraction into a decimal by doing top in, bottom out. It's just dividing. Can 8 go into 5? No, it cannot. So add your add your decimal up top. Add a 0 down here. 8 can go into 50 6 times. Can 8 go into 2? No, it cannot, but since I have a remainder, add a 0. 8 can go into 20 2 times. 8 can go into 45 times. So now we have a fraction to a decimal. Well, guys, earlier on this video, didn't we just go from a decimal to a percent? Well, how did you turn the decimal into a percent? Oh, that's right. We took our decimal, moved it 2 places to the right. Oh, would you look at that? 5/8 is equivalent to 0.625, which is equivalent to 62.5%. You will have to do conversions like this on your test next week, and this really wasn't that hard. Let's try another one. Same way. So let's say now we have, excuse me. Let's say we have, I don't know, 9/12. Some of you are going to say, I can simplify this to 3/4. Yes, you can, but for this case, I'm not going to simplify it. I just want to practice top in, bottom out. Can 12 go into 9? No, it cannot. So add your decimal, add your 0. 12 into 90. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84. It goes in there 7 times. $12 into 60. Well, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. 5 times. Well, you just turn the fraction into a decimal. And how do you turn a decimal into a percent? You move your decimal 2 places to the right. So once again, you went from fraction to decimal to percent. This way will always work 100% of the time. Okay. Now back to fraction to percent. I said there was 2 ways to do it. This first way I showed you will always work. The other way you could do it works only if the denominator is a factor of 100. The reason I say that, percents are out of 100. Here's your percent sign, like I showed the students earlier, and here's your 100. Well, look at that. Here's your 1, here's your 2 zeros. So percents are out of 100. So let's see if I can do a couple of examples here. Let's say I have 3/5. And I want to know what percent that is. Again, we just said percents are out of 100. Well, to get from 5 to 100, what did you multiply by? You would multiply by 20. So if you have 3 $20 bills, how much money would you have? You would have $60. Oh, look at that. You have 60 over 100, which is equivalent to 60%. Nice and easy. Let's try another one. Let's try 14 over 20. Is 20 a factor of 100? Well, yes it is. How many $20 bills does it take to give you $100? It's 5. So multiply by 5. So what is 14 times 5? Well, let's see. 14, 28, 42, 56, 70. Goes in there 5 times. So 14 times 5 is 70. Oh, well, look at that. 70 over 100 is equivalent to 70%. Again, this way only works if the denominator, like the ones I'm circling here, are a factor of 100. So what are some factors of 100? Well, 5, 10, 20, 25, 50, 100. Those would all work. Would this one work right here? Is 3 a factor of 100? No, it is not. So this method would not work. This will not work for this method. This is where you would do the top in, bottom out. All right, now let's move on to how to help out on the back side of your homework. The back side of your homework is dealing with integers. So adding and subtracting integers. Now, early in the year when I taught y'all about adding and subtracting integers, this is what we did. I started by separating out each term. Remember, each term had a symbol and a number attached to it. We talked about the negative as being people with negative attitudes. The positive is people with positive attitudes. Remember, we said all the negative attitudes will cancel out. So let's see, I have 18 people with negative attitudes. So let's do here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my negative 18. There's my 18 people with negative attitudes. But then I have 20 people with positive attitudes. But remember earlier in the year when I said opposites attract one another. Well, look at this. The negative attitude is attracted to the positive attitude. They go on a date and their attitudes cancel out one another. So let's cancel out all the negative and positive attitudes. They do something called zeroing out. Oh, what am I left with? I'm left with 2 positive attitudes. So negative 18 increased by 20, the answer is just a positive 2. That's your answer. Another way you can ask yourself this question after we separate out each term, what do you have more of, negatives or positives? Well, Mr. Nolan, do you have more positives? So your answer is positive, but since the signs are different, you must subtract the numbers. So 7 minus 3 would be 4. There's your answer. Well, let's try this one. Oh, would you look at this? The signs are the same. Well, let's do this visual first. So here's our visual. I have 3 people with negative attitudes, and I have another 6 people with negative attitudes. Well, I can't zero them out because they're not opposites. They're not attracted to one another. So what do they all have in common? Well, all these people have a negative attitude. And how many people are there with negative attitudes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, well look, there's your answer. Notice what I did. When the signs are the same, you keep the sign and you add the numbers, just like we did here. Alright, let's do one more, and these will be the rules for multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, we taught y'all 2 things. We taught y'all the sleepy triangle. Remember, the way that works is you cover up one of the 3 symbols. It doesn't matter which one it is. The one you're covering up is the answer. A negative times a positive is a negative. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. Oh, what about this one? A negative divided by a positive is a negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. The other way I showed y'all was the tic-tac-toe method. Tic-tac-toe, 3 positives in a row. A positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive is a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. So nice and easy when you're multiplying or dividing. If the signs are the same, like down here, when the signs are the same when multiplying or dividing, the answer is a positive. When you're multiplying or dividing, when the signs are different, like you see here and here, when the signs are different, your answer is a negative. So we said going across is multiplying. Well, look if you go down. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Look at that. Let's do a few examples. Let's do... Remember, this dot right here means to multiply. What is a negative times a negative? Well, let's look here. A negative times a negative is a positive, so my answer is positive. Now just multiply. 8 times 4 is 32. There's your answer. Let's go ahead and try another one. Let's try... Oh, look at this one. A negative times a positive is a negative. So this answer is negative. And now just multiply. 10 times 4 is 40. There's your answer, negative 40. Now let's try a couple dividing. So we have a negative divided by a positive, which is a negative. So this answer is negative. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So there's your answer, negative 2. Now let's try this one. Ooh. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this answer is positive. Now you don't have to put that positive or plus sign if you don't want to. This is just for me. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So if you want to put a plus 3 or a positive 3 or just a plain 3, those are both good answers. They're good. Okay. Well, guys, I hope this video helps you. All right, guys. Have a good night. Bye.